welcome everybody to today's show. We have a friend and mastermind sister on the call today. Her name is Jenn Cino. She lives in Canada. She is a women's wellness expert, a certified trainer, and a nutrition coach. She's helped over 1,000 women worldwide through her online coaching programs, and now she's focusing on helping women take back their control of their bodies and their minds by rebalancing their hormones naturally. You guys know, if you've been seeing me reading the book In the Flow on Instagram, I'm all about learning right now like my hormones and my cycle and how to actually like work with your hormones and use them to your advantage as a woman. Like, how come nobody's ever taught this before? And this is like what Jenn does. So I was like, oh, come on my podcast and talk to everybody and share. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for asking me. I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. Okay, so before we dive into all things like hormones and nutrition and wellness, tell us a little bit about you and how you grew up and how you came to do what you do.
Yeah, so I grew up in a very happy household with two very good parents, and I had a pretty normal childhood until at about 8 years old, my mom got sick. She got diagnosed with MS. And, there were a lot of struggles there financially with my family. And a few years later, when I was about 12 or 13, my dad got sick too. So all of a sudden, we went from one big happy family to a family with two parents who were sick and on disability.
Do you have siblings?
I have two brothers.
Oh, you're the only girl. There you go. Are you the middle or the end?
I'm the middle.
Oh, there you go. All right.
Yeah. So I feel like up until that point, I had like a very conventional childhood, and then it kind of twisted. And, as the personal development started happening towards my latter 20s, I really realized how this had impacted my brain a lot. And I never had really thought about it until probably the last year or two. And I was very aware of financial stress at a very young age, when kids should be kids, because my parents were going through that battle. And I was also very hyper aware of health, and more importantly, of bad health and what it can do to your life and your family. So I really think that has shaped me into who I am today, for sure. And that is definitely why I got into wellness, because from the point where I kind of was like mature enough to start doing research on my own, I became kind of obsessed with natural health and healing naturally. And I was using my parents as guinea pigs. And so it kind of just evolved from that. And then I just ended up, going to school for it. And I have a bachelor's of science, and then I went and got my diploma in fitness. So it's always been like, on my radar, but it kind of just went into fruition in my 20s.
Oh, it totally shaped your whole life.
Yeah.
I was getting sick at 8. That's a really vulnerable age. Do you feel like part of you felt responsible for helping them?
100%. And, I have like very fond memories of my childhood of, my nonna used to give me money whenever I'd go and visit her. She'd give me $20 for going to visit her. And I remember being like 10 years old and sneaking it into my mom's wallet. Like, I would give up that money and I wouldn't tell her. Like, I would just like sneak it in and then run away, because I felt that burden on me. And it was almost like my parents always took care of me very, very well, but it was almost like from such a young age, I took on that like caretaker role. So it was very strange looking back at some of the things I was doing.
And that happened, you noticed, after the diagnosis, not before.
Yeah, after. Yeah, when my mom went off work.
Did your brothers take on like that same role? Probably not.
Oh God, no. Complete opposite.
Whatever. It doesn't matter. I could see that for sure. Oh, so you wanted to be their rescuer. You wanted to make something better.
I still do. I still annoy the heck out of them and get mad at them when they eat gluten. But, I've also come to the point now where I will still continue to help them. I'll still bring ideas to them. I'll still use them as my guinea pigs, but it's gotten to the point where people make their own choices too. And I cannot force someone to want to be healthy, or like I can't want it more for someone than they want for themselves. And if they're happy and content the way they are, then I need to kind of like release that expectation.
Oh man, that sounds like a huge realization for you, because I can see you as this little 8-year-old girl just being like, I can't let my parents die. Like, I don't want to lose my parents. Right. And you were
Yeah.
doing it from this like desperate place of like going through trauma, basically, 8-year-old, and being like, I'm not going to have my parents. That's traumatic for an 8-year-old. And so to get to that point of being able to let go, be like, I have to accept the fact that they might not take care of themselves and die and leave me alone. How was that for you, processing through that?
You know, it like getting to that point has definitely like released some stress in a strange way, because I do feel less responsible. And it, you know, I'm almost 30. It is what it is now. And I'm so happy that I've had them this long. And I would be thrilled if I have them 10 more years. But, you know, if that's not the way they want to live, where they're like constantly doing detoxes and, you know, spending more money on gluten-free options, then, you know, I can't put that stress on them too, because that's not going to help them either. So it almost has kind of released a little bit of stress, I think, because my expectations have, I don't want to say they've lowered, but they have, right?
You're getting to choose to love them for them.
Yes.
Like let go of the outcome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So you go to college, you decide you're going into wellness. Take us through the story.
Okay, well, I went to university, and then about halfway through my degree, I decided to go traveling. So I moved to Australia by myself when I was a week before I turned 20. I moved there by myself, and I'd never traveled anywhere by myself. And that was a shock for sure. I went through some like very low times, being very lonely, but I am definitely I don't want to say I'm introverted, but I love my alone time. I like being by myself. I kind of like talking to myself and being in my own head. And I don't really get that lonely being by myself. So it was hard to adjust for sure, but I really liked the independence that it brought me. And I learned so much. I remember I came home after a year and I went back to university, and I was just like none of this is teaching me anything. Like, I learned it all being thrown in the middle of a random country and like figuring it out. You know what I mean? So I went back, I finished, and then I went back to Australia because I needed round 2. And from there, I ended up moving to New Zealand after that because my visa ran out. And then after New Zealand, I still didn't want to go home, and I moved to the UK. And I stayed in the UK for 2 years, and I met my partner there in Liverpool. And then we moved back to Canada almost 3 years ago. So while I was in Liverpool, I was actually working in interior design. That was a huge passion of mine. I'm like super creative, love all that stuff. Worked there, but didn't see a future with it just because I didn't have the degree, and it was just me so much schooling. So I went and got my diploma in fitness, and it kind of sparked because I mean, this is kind of what I do as well. It sparked something in me because I was trying to get fit myself, and I was so frustrated. And it was just when like the Instagram culture of fitness just started, and I was like super into it. But it was like I was following all these different girls who all looked a certain way and were telling me, this is what I do, buy my program. And like looking back now, I'm like, BS, you never did that. But I got really frustrated because I was like, why don't I look like these girls? So I actually went to go so I could learn myself. It was like literally a learning thing. I was like, I need to know the science so I can do it myself. And then it kind of turned into a career that I was actually passionate about.
Okay. I have like so many thoughts to throw in on this because I come from the Beachbody background. So I know what you're talking about. But first of all, like backing up, how do you just like start working as an interior designer if you don't have a degree in it? Like, that's amazing. I want to be
sign me up. Well, the different countries have different regulations. So in Canada, it's very regulated, and in the UK, it's not. So he took me on as a junior designer and like kind of as his intern, and he was going to teach me everything. And there was a way to get work experience in order to qualify as that title in England. And then he went out of business.
Okay, that's fine. I love it. So then when you went from like Australia to New Zealand to the UK, did you do different jobs in each of them?
No, I was a bartender the whole time.
Oh, that's fun. See, I didn't know. So I was like, what is she doing this whole time?
Yeah, no, I was bartending. It was fun.
You move to like a brand new country, you know no one, you don't even know the culture, and you're like, whatever, I'll just work at the bar. Like,
Yeah.
everybody will love me. I love that. That's so
My first job in Australia was at a backpacker bar. And it was, I remember it so clearly. I was like looking for a job forever, 3 months. And then I finally landed this job. I had $7 in my bank account. I was like, I need this. I remember it was a Sunday I started working and we got paid on the Thursday. So I had $7 to last me 4 days in Australia, which literally that's a coffee.
right.
And my first shift was with this really lovely girl named Natasha. And she was from, I think she was from Germany. Anyways, she was like, oh, come back to my hostel and I'll make you German pancakes because I was so hungry. So she made me German pancakes and I moved into this hostel and then I started working at a backpacker bar and made friends and then just like gained that confidence to kind of like be a nomad.
Oh, I love that. Okay, real quick, explain to everybody what a hostel is, because I know, but some people might not if they're listening.
Yeah, so a hostel is like, I mean, it's usually like a motel type layout, and backpackers and travelers and nomads just stay there for super cheap. I mean, there's so many different types of hostels. Some are really nice and some are not so nice. So it really depends on your budget, but you can usually stay in a hostel from like $7 a night to at the top end, maybe like 20, 25. And it's basically a room with 2 bunk beds. Actually, I've stayed in hostels with 50 bunk beds, like 100 room or 100 people rooms. So yeah.
And they're all over Europe. It makes it easy to travel.
Oh, they're all over everywhere. Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay, now let's fast forward back to like you getting into the fitness side of things and wanting to figure that out. I loved that you referenced the Instagram fitness scene.
Yeah, it's a wild place out there.
Can you elaborate on what you mean by that for anybody that might not know?
I mean, okay, I'm not going to drop names or programs or anything like that, but you know, there's fitness influencers. Some of them are trainers. To be fair, the girl whose like community I was in was a certified trainer, thankfully, but there's a lot of influencers out there who have nice bodies and post workouts on Instagram, and they come out with these online programs, and then they have their own hashtags, and like everyone who does the program becomes friends. I made a lot of friends on Instagram through the fitness kind of realm, but it gets really competitive too. Like, especially back then, I guess it was about 5 or 6 years ago, and it was like, it held me accountable, but it was almost kind of detrimental, like mentally, because it was a competition. It was always like, who could get the best results? Oh, is she going to post my results? Like, you know what I mean? And it definitely became obsessive.
Totally. I can totally see that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had already been passionate about learning about nutrition before this point and using nutrition to be healthy, right, because of your parents, but you still were struggling, it sounds like, to get in shape.
Yeah, well, looking back now, again, hindsight is 2020, of course. But I mean, I went on birth control when I was 14. So I had really heavy periods, and that's why. And a lot of my friends were on it, and it was kind of like the social thing too, like, oh, you're not on birth control kind of thing. And I remember I like begged my mom to go on it. And I did definitely have very heavy periods. And you know, my mom brought me to the doctor to consult him about it. And like, it was so easy. He was like, yep, birth control, here you go. So I was on birth control for 7 years. So through all my teenage years, from 14 to 21, I was controlled by this pill, and I didn't even realize it, because I had this like very enlightening moment 3 days after I decided to quit birth control.
Well, hold on. Before you get in there, why did you decide to quit it?
Because I had read that after 7 years, your fertility is slashed in half. And that was my 7-year mark. Now, I mean, I don't think there's like a whole lot of evidence to support that now, but like at that time, that was kind of the narrative. So it scared me. So I just got off. And within 3 days of getting off, it was very, very fast for me. My personality flipped like completely. I remember it was 3 days after I got home from Australia the first time. My personality was completely different. And I remember having, like, even to the point, like, I had a boyfriend and I didn't like him anymore. And that is actually, I mean, I won't get too much into it, but like birth control actually changes your mate selection. Like it changes your hormones so much that you select different mates.
Okay, so when you say your personality was different, can you describe that more? Was it, because I'm like, is it better or worse? Like,
oh, it was 100% better. It was 100% better. I felt like I had like been living a lie my whole like adolescence / early adulthood, because I was so emotional. My mood was all over the place. Like if my mom ordered Chinese and I wanted pizza, I would cry. It was like crazy. And all of a sudden I had just like completely mellowed out. And I remember distinctly thinking like, is this actually who I am? Like, have I just been like living a lie for 7 years? And I had.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. Now my mind is blown. Hashtag like mind blown. I believe that like birth control changes you. I know that it does, because the couple of times that I was on, which was after I was already married, or when I got married, but I had already picked my mate, thank God. When I would go on it, I felt crazy.
Yeah.
When I would go off, I'd be like, okay, now I feel like me again. And so I don't use it now. I hate it. But can you talk, because I read in the Flow talks about how when you are on any type of birth control, doesn't matter what kind it is, you don't actually have a period. That's a placebo effect. And I was like, what? When I heard that, because you're always told that it's your period and that you're still getting your period. And then you come to find out like, no, you're not. And so you find out you've been literally skipping your body's natural cycle for years. Like, it's no wonder your fertility rate would go down.
Oh, 100%. And like every ovulation that you go through, every ovulatory cycle that you go through every month, like decreases your chances of like catching certain cancers or developing certain cancers, your dementia, like the longer you're on birth control or hormonal birth control and your reproductive system is suppressed, the more likely you are to develop dementia, postmenopausal, you're more likely to develop osteoporosis. The list of side effects is huge and isn't talked about. And you're exactly right. You don't get a period. It basically shuts down your entire reproductive system and feeds you artificial hormones to mimic that. And the period, the withdrawal bleed, was actually used as like a marketing ploy. So when birth control was first created, they thought, this will totally turn off women if they don't get their periods anymore. That will freak them out. So they invented the placebo pill and made it seem like it's a totally natural thing.
Okay, so what about, I don't know if you know about this, but I'll just throw it out there. The NuvaRing, they always told me to take it out so I could get my period every month. So I did. Mm-hmm. You happen to know, is that still my period since I would take it out?
I mean, I don't know a whole lot. I actually haven't worked with anyone. It's usually IUDs in the pill and sometimes the patch or the depot shot that a lot of my clients are on. The NuvaRing, I'm not too sure. I assume that would be right because your hormones, you're taking out the artificial hormones, right?
Yep. So you would leave it in for 3 weeks and then you would take it out and have your period for a week and then put it back in. And they were like, some people leave it in and just like skip them. And I was like, no, that freaks me out.
Yeah, totally.
But I did have the copper IUD. This also, I'm like, I don't know if you know this, but I'm going to throw it out there. And they told me I was still getting my periods and that my uterus lining was shedding. Now, I got like a week-long thing every month with the copper IUD, and there's no hormones in copper.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, copper is non-hormonal. So you do, still get your period. Although a lot of women don't. But there are side effects as well. Like it basically stops sperm from swimming up. So that's how that works. But there is a lot of women who it like gets rejected by their body and it gets pushed out. Or one of the risk factors is like ovarian perforation, basically. So there are a lot of risks to it. Obviously, you don't get that hormonal dosage, but...
Right. Yeah. No, I noticed immediately there's a huge difference in my periods taking it out.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah.
And so I was like, well, that's weird.
Yeah.
So I don't like anything that like messes with my body. Okay. That was a total side tangent, but you had this enlightening moment because you took it out and you were a different person. So tell us more.
So I broke up with my boyfriend, literally. And my body, like, I definitely don't think it recovered for years. And I still think I'm going through that process. So when your body is subjected to artificial hormones for so long, or like you said, you're not ovulating, you're not getting a period, that has a lot of side effects. And unfortunately, a lot of women, especially when they're young, like I was, go on it not for birth control. Like I was still a virgin, right? So they don't even go on it for actual birth control. They do it usually to mask symptoms of PMS. And of course, it works. It's not a cure, but it masks those symptoms because it just shuts down your processes, right? I mean, I definitely am still working through, like, I'm on a detox right now. And like, I believe that people should be detoxing multiple times a year just to, rebalance their estrogen levels and all that kind of stuff. But it really can affect people long-term and sometimes permanently. Like, for example, with libido, like that is a huge side effect of the pill, loss of libido basically. And I mean, I won't get too scientific and bore everyone, but when your body is being given artificial hormones, your brain basically signals like, whoa, there's way too many hormones in here. And it signals to your liver to release this, it's called a sex hormone binding globulin. And it is a protein that gets secreted by your liver, and its purpose is to basically attach to testosterone and pull it out, and attach to hormones and pull it out so that your body can detoxify. But when you're on the pill for like 7 years, like I was, the problem is it just keeps compounding. That protein keeps compounding, and you get off the pill and you start producing your own hormones, and it's still pulling them out, right? So testosterone is our sex drive hormone, basically. So, it's pulling out the testosterone, and all of a sudden you have zero libido, all these other side effects start happening. So it's very important to detox off the pill in a safe manner, obviously, to just kind of help your detoxification centers and like minimize the risk of that happening permanently.
You said that your health, it took you years to recover, that you feel like you're still doing that. How many years has it been, first of all?
Since I got off? 7, almost 8.
Okay. And can you tell us like what you saw as far as like your health suffering?
Yeah. Okay. So, and not to say that this all, because I don't know if this all was pill related. I'm sure it had a big part of it, but it was also lifestyle too. Like when I was young, I drank a lot. I partied a lot, especially while I was traveling. And, alcohol, obviously you're stressing your body out. And there's just so many factors that I'm sure went into it. But I struggled with like severe digestive issues for probably the better part of 6 years, and was hospitalized for it. I spent so much money seeing doctors, specialists, like getting ultrasounds, like what is wrong with my body? Why am I so bloated? Why am I so constipated? Like it was insane. It was life altering for sure. Like I based my schedule and my lifestyle around my stomach aches. And another fun fact is after 5 years on the pill, your likelihood of developing Crohn's is increased by 5 times as well, because the pill acts like an antibiotic on your gut. So it wipes out all the good bacteria. So if you're not taking precautions, like I didn't know what a probiotic was when I was 14, 15, 16, like I didn't do any of these things. And so it for sure just ruined my gut. And it took me of intentional healing about 1.5 years to get to a place where I was like, okay, my body actually works now. So it's an ongoing process. I feel like I'm very close to achieving, like I don't really get PMS symptoms. I don't get hormonal acne, nothing like that. I don't have IBS anymore. So it took a while, but it could have not taken that long had I known actually what to do.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you got off the pill, and then what made you start looking into like hormonal health and all of that? Because I'm assuming this all kind of lines up at the same time. You start getting fit the same time you went off the pill.
Mm-hmm.
So how does this all like work together to fit into what you do today?
Okay, well, I'm a huge research nerd, so I'm always learning, and I love learning about different aspects of health. And my career is like my craft. Like I always want to be better. I always want to serve my clients better. I always want to know more. And that's just my personality. I feel like, I mean, not to dog on other fitness professionals, or fitness influencers, but I feel like there's a lot of misinformation out there, and a lot of the fitness advice you get or the health advice is very, very surface level. And I kind of got to the point where I was so sick of seeing trainers, especially male trainers, post on Facebook or post on Instagram saying weight loss is just calories in versus calories out. Like if I see that one more time, I'll throw my phone through a wall, because that is like the most basic surface level thing you could ever preach to someone. And that instantly makes that person feel like it's my fault, or, you know, it's my fault that I'm not losing weight or I'm not building muscle, or on the more extreme, like, oh, I'll just starve myself. And the amount of clients I currently work with and have worked with who I have to, it takes months and months and months, and sometimes it never gets to that point where I'm like, you need to eat. Like you are damaging your metabolism, you're throwing your hormones so far off by restricting, because everyone around you has told you that that's how you get skinny or you lose weight, is just by restricting. And you know, Fit Period, my signature program was kind of born out of that frustration. Let's leave the HIIT aside and the cardio aside, and let's leave the macros aside for a second, and like let's actually look at what's happening in the body and work from the inside out. And once everything is balanced, then you can start getting results. But if you're estrogen dominant, or, you know, your thyroid doesn't work properly, or you have adrenal fatigue, like you're not going to lose weight. You're not going to reach your goals, and you're just going to do more damage. So it was kind of a culmination of years of being really annoyed by other trainers.
And that's, I'm assuming, was annoyed because you couldn't get the own results that you wanted for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
so
sure.
You went and got your, I don't know what you call it, your certification?
Like diploma, yeah.
Okay, yes. You went and got that because you wanted to get fit yourself. Mm-hmm. And then I'm guessing you started learning all the hormone stuff at the same time. At what point did you decide to turn it into a business?
Not that long ago, only a few months ago, I kind of came up with this idea of like, it's called Fit Period, because, you know, you get your period fit and you get fit. But I mean, I was doing like the traditional coaching type thing, and I felt like I was really disservicing a lot of clients because I just didn't have the systems in place to help them properly and not overwhelm them. So it was like months of kind of putting it all together and being like, hey, this is what we're doing first, then we move into this, and kind of like ranking it from importance. And funnily enough, I'm a personal trainer, and like the fitness aspect is like that much of my program, right? Because all the other stuff, the foundational stuff of actually having a good working body and health that works for you and not against you, starts way before you step into the gym. Oh. So it was just like a culmination of me not being able to help my clients properly, and then them just being so disillusioned by other people in the industry.
Yeah. But you started personal training, you started your own gym a while ago.
So, okay, when I was in England, I was working at a gym, and then I moved back to Canada and I was working at a gym, and then I'm like definitely an entrepreneur, but I started a home business, like a in-home training. So I would drive to people's houses and work them out. And then I had the opportunity last year, actually I got into network marketing as well, made pretty good money, and then saved a bunch of it and put that into a boutique gym. So I opened a gym last July, and it was like semi-private personal training. So it was classes of 5, 30 minutes. That's it. It was super great. You know, it really became like a community hub for everyone in the area. And then COVID hit. Womp womp. And I very luckily was in a 1-year lease, and I would have extended it probably for 5 years, which is what my landlord would have wanted. And me and my partner, when I say we made the decision last month to just close the doors completely and not renew in July, because I saw a lot more opportunity online. I knew how to pivot to a degree because I had the support system, like our mastermind and my coaches. So I knew I had the support there, and I knew I could help a lot more people. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, here comes the bomb dropping. But first of all, going back, you said you're always kind of been an entrepreneur. What gave you like that drive? I feel like so many people are feeling that pull and they're afraid to like just go for it. And I love that like you saw network marketing as a vehicle to get you your own business, but like starting and being like, all right, I'm putting a huge chunk of change into my own gym. Like that's a huge leap to go like, oh, I'll try network marketing. Like I'll try working for myself too. Oh, now I'm buying a gym. You know, like now I'm going all in on myself. What gave you that like courage to be like, oh, I'm doing this?
I don't know, I think it's like, I think I was just born with it. I swear. I don't think it's something you can really learn. Like my dad is a very, very stubborn Sicilian man. And I definitely inherited that stubbornness to the point where like, I won't fail. Like you will not see me fail. And so I will give myself this. I'm very resilient and I don't dwell. I think that we all go through shit where things don't work out, and there's people who dwell on it and feel sorry for themselves. And I feel sorry for myself for about 2 days. And then I'm like, okay, what's next? You know what I mean? And so I think that's just kind of built into me. And maybe it goes back to my childhood where I had to be resilient. Like I had to kind of deal with my shit to move past it. And so with this, it's like, I don't see that as a failed business venture because I had to shut down my gym. I think like, wow, I learned so much about business, about people, about what I do and do not want going forward, that it's a blessing to me. It's not something that I'm going to cry about and write to the local newspaper about. I'm just not going to do it. You know what I mean? I'm just going to do the next thing.
I love your perspective because it's so true. We always get to choose how we see it and how we experience life. And so when we tell ourselves, I failed, this was a huge mess up, this is a huge mistake, this is going to suck, that's what we experience. But if we can tell ourselves, no, I tried something and I got to learn a whole bunch of lessons and experience a whole bunch of things. And now I get to see what's next.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Experience something completely different. Yeah. Tell yourself the other story. But do you feel like traveling all over the place and having to learn to like settle into other cultures gave you that perspective of like, oh, let's just see what the adventure brings? And like, okay.
100%. 100%. And like traveling definitely shaped a lot of who I am and the experiences I got from that and the people I met. And yeah, it did like definitely build into that resilience because, if I got myself into trouble, which I did a lot, I couldn't call my dad to come pick me up. I just had to face it, and I had to learn from the stupid things I did when I was traveling. And there was a lot of them, which this is a PG podcast, so I won't go into it. But I kind of had to learn from it, or it was like survival of the fittest when you're out there alone. So these types of things like don't bother me. Like my gym is 15 minutes from my house. I'm not that hard off. You know what I mean? Like I'm not like deserted on an island with no friends or family. I'm not homeless on the street. It doesn't really faze me. And maybe that will change when I'm older and maybe when I have kids, but like right now.
Yeah, totally. So did you ever have a moment, because I feel like every entrepreneur has at least one of these, probably multiple, where it's like a make or break moment in your business where you're like, okay, I'm hitting this point and I either need to like make the leap and do something scary to get the next level, or I need to like quit or like give up or like whatever. And I feel like we're always going to those. Like every time it's time to get to the next level, you face that decision of either like, all right, either I'm going to do something super scary that I know has to get me there, or it's going to be the lesson I need. Or I can't keep doing this anymore.
Yeah. So I guess mine, I've had lots of mini ones, I guess, but I think my biggest one was back in December. I invested in my first ever coach, and I had, uplines in network marketing, and they were great. And like, that definitely set me on my path of self-development for sure. I didn't even know what self-development was before network marketing, but I didn't have teeth in the game. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have, and for me, my pain point is money, like for sure, because I came from a childhood that we had money and then all of a sudden the next day we didn't. So I've always like still ongoing. That's like my biggest mindset challenge is the fear of losing money. And so in December, I decided I was going to invest in a program, and it was $10,000. And I did not have $10,000. And I spread it out over 3 credit cards. I went to the bank, I increased my limit. And within 3 days of like being introduced to this program and this coach, I was in the program. And for me, it got to the point where it's like material things, I'm not really that concerned about if I lose things like that. But mine was money. It was like, I cannot put $10,000 into something and not get my money's worth out of it. So I knew I needed to do that. That was something that was so painful for me, but it was the only way I was going to make it back, essentially. And so I invested $10,000. I studied the course for like 2 weeks straight. I was like obsessed. This was only in December too. And then my 3rd week, I made my first sale, and that week I made $10,000. And I was like, what the heck? It was like $9,700. And I paid for the course in 1 week. And then that month was my, I went from never having a 5-figure month to my first 5-figure month being $20,000. And I was like, okay, there's something here. So that is obviously a few months later, I invested into our mastermind. And again, for me, it's just a financial thing. Like, I need to put money into something because I will work my ass off to get that money back because of my childhood and my mindset.
Okay, I have like so many things to say right here. One thing I loved that you said was that in network marketing, you didn't have any teeth in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Can you like expand on that? Because so many people in network marketing, when I'm like, awesome, are you investing in you? And they're like, well, yeah, my product.
Yeah.
Like I bought into the company, and I'm like, that's not investing in you.
No, absolutely not. And I mean, for my company, it was like about $200 a month to stay active, right? And I was eating everything. I mean, it's just like Beachbody. I was drinking the protein, I was eating the bars, and it cut my grocery bill down. Like, that was not an investment. That made my stomach feel a lot better. It helped with my health. Like, that was a payoff more than anything. But if I would skip the weekly team calls if there was something better to do. You know what I mean? I was very dedicated to my business too, but there was no pain there. There was no pain there, right? So I think I remember listening to one of Kayla Craft's podcasts like months ago. And I remember her saying, like, you need to manufacture pain points if you don't have any, because that we are all very driven by pain, right? So to me, network marketing, there was no pain there. I had to do what scared me in order to like go to that next level.
And then what made you so certain that investing hard money, like 5 figures in yourself, was the only way that you were going to get to that next level? Like, because so certain about that versus just like, oh, I'll just go buy this like $2,000 course or like something else.
Because I have a fear of failure, like a lot of people do. I have a very big fear of failure. And if I didn't make that money back, it means I failed myself. That's it. That's literally it.
Okay. And you were like, if I put this much money in, I won't let myself fail.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people get scared about entrepreneurship, or they get scared about investing in a coach, and they don't realize that the outcome is all about them. It's not about the coach. It's not about whatever it is. It's about you. And for me, I won't let myself fail. Like, I will stay up till midnight if it means I have to, make that money back, or, not to that extreme, obviously, but like, I don't give myself the choice to fail. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people give themselves that option, and they kind of like sway towards that option because it's the easier option to just quit and do something else that's easy. But I know that I'm in control of my outcome. So why am I that scared to spend the money? Right?
That brings me back to like what I just said on my stories this morning, which was that your level of investment in yourself with like a coach, a mentor, maybe some courses, is a reflection of your amount of belief in yourself.
Oh, 100%.
So if you're not willing to believe in yourself enough to make that scary investment, why are other people going to believe in you to that degree?
100%. 100%.
So I'm not surprised that within like a couple weeks, you made that money back.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Like finally, you had an energetic exchange that was equal because you decided, you know what, I'm willing to invest in myself this much and put skin in the game and say, like, I actually do believe in myself this much. And so then that's how the world responds back to you. But the world is always responding back to you how you decide to show up.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like I fully believe that we're in control. Like I do not have any superpowers that you don't have, that she doesn't have, that he doesn't have, right? The only superpower that is going to trump all is that self-belief, for sure.
I just think people get scared and think, okay, well, what if I decide to go all in and believe on myself and then the world doesn't deliver?
I mean, is it the world's responsibility to deliver? Or is it your responsibility to deliver to the world?
I would also argue that energetically that's not possible.
Yeah.
Like that's not, everything in life in the world is balanced, right? Like that's how the world, when you study it from a scientific point of view and the universe and like everything out there, it's balanced.
It's wind.
Balanced. So like you cannot actually put that money into yourself and actually show up and do the work and then not see the benefit. That's not
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think that's the problem is like a lot of people just don't even get to the point of investing in themselves. They've already talked themselves out of it. So they'll never even know if there's so many what ifs in that situation, and they've just let themselves down.
Oh, sure. And that goes back to, again, then they've decided they don't actually believe in themselves.
Yeah, 100%.
That's a much more empowering way of saying it than I don't have money. It's I don't believe in myself to that point yet.
Oh, 100%. You see it all the time. You know, like my group coaching program is less than $200 a month. Like it is very inexpensive for the life-changing results that happen. And people will still talk themselves out of it. And it's because they know they have patterns where they try something and they give up because they don't see instant results. And so they're not willing. But I bet if I priced it at $2,000 a month, you know, I would get some very serious people.
Yeah.
And get some very serious results. And I fully believe that the more you charge, the better results your clients will get, regardless of the program they're actually doing. If the course is the same for $200 and $2,000, guaranteed $2,000 paying clients are going to get better results because they're way more invested in that outcome.
They're way more committed. And you are too, because you're like, whoa, I just charged $2,000. I'm going to show up. Like,
yeah,
I'm going to show up really well. Okay, so let's go back to talking about hormones and health, because I just think this is so fun. What is the biggest misconception you see out there when working with women and getting their hormones back in balance?
Ooh, I mean, there's so many. I think I've already kind of touched on some of them. Like, do you mean the misconceptions that the client has about health? I mean, when it's related to my actual program, the biggest thing that I see is women not knowing that birth control has side effects. That is for sure, hands down. Even the women who join my program and aren't on birth control, because the program touches on that, they're shocked because they have relied on traditional medicine their entire lives. And the first thing they always say is, my doctor didn't tell me that. I can't believe he didn't tell me that. I can't believe my OBGYN didn't tell me that. You know what I mean? So I think that's the biggest thing is we have been so misled by pharmaceuticals and traditional medicine and Western medicine that it comes as a shock to women when I tell them that, you know, that little pill is actually doing you more harm than good. And there actually is a way to heal from nature.
And then let's talk working out when you're on your period. This is, again, such a taboo subject because I was always given the impression of you shouldn't need days off. How committed are you? Not always. I shouldn't say always told, but I should say in the last few years being a Beachbody coach, right? That was kind of the stigma was oh, come on, you're not weak, but buckle up type thing. Just, it's actually better for you. It'll make your symptoms better, blah, blah, blah. And now reading the book, I'm okay, that's not necessarily true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think it's so individualized too, because, you know, your PMS will be different from mine. And, you know, the way our hormones are might be at different balances and stuff like that. So it's very individual. And I always tell my clients, you know, do what feels good to you, but do what feels good to your body, not your mind, because your mind will tell you no days off, but your body might be screaming for a rest. And I think we've kind of even grown up in this culture where women are meant to make no big deal out of their periods, because you look at tampon commercials and she's playing tennis and like, oh, your period doesn't even exist. Like, you know, you use this tampon, you won't even know you have a period, right? So we just think like, okay, that's the way it is. I just have to pretend it doesn't exist. But your period, more than anything, like, is a very good insight into your overall health. And that's something we definitely need to listen to and look more intently at. I mean, your hormones are at their lowest when you get your period. So you are going to be more fatigued. You might be a little bit low feeling. And I definitely think that's the time to rest. And then, you know, around day 3 or 4 is when your hormones start coming up again. And you're going up that hill to ovulation, which is like the best thing ever, right? And so I think like towards the tail end of your period, like a lot of women start getting their mojo back, and that's totally fine. But if you need those 3 days or 4 days to rest, then do it. And it's more than anything, it's a great time to reflect on what you want to achieve that next month, right? So your cycle also gives you, like we said, those superpowers. And it doesn't necessarily mean health-wise, but it can be mindset and mood. You know, like when you're ovulating, your oral abilities are at their highest. So go do a speaking engagement, or, you know, go do that podcast when you're ovulating, because all those things will come so much more naturally to you. But when we're on our periods, it's kind of like that rest and reset time where it's like, okay, I'm going to plan my month around my cycle and tap into those superpowers so that I don't burn out, so that I'm more productive, so that I feel better, I look better, my mood is better. And you kind of just take it how you feel. But I totally understand what you mean. Like, I had a girl last week say, oh, I'm on my period, should I rest? Like, I really have a hard time mentally, like, taking a day off. And I just said, well, how do you feel? Like, how does your body feel? Right? So.
And that's another thing is I think I think people in general are so disconnected from their bodies.
Oh my God.
And some people aren't even aware of it. I wasn't aware of it for years. Yeah. Last year, I started doing yoga for the first time in my life. And I feel like it was the first time where I started being like, oh, I think there's work to do here. Like reconnecting to my body. And I actually had a masseuse tell me, she's like, you feel like you have body armor on. Like you are not in your body. Like you are just like, and this is a sign that's going through trauma, which would make sense. Anybody who knows my story knows I've definitely been through trauma. She's like, but you literally are like not open at all. Mm-hmm. So I started doing yoga and stuff. And now I'm like, getting my explant in like 6 days because I so am like coming back into my body and I'm like, I just want it out and I want, like, I like me and I want to be me and like all of that, you know. How does someone know if they're like connected to their body or not? Because I think it's even hard to judge. Like, do you need a day off? Because we're so in our heads and we're not even in our physical bodies.
Yeah. I think it's like, I'm the same as you. Like, I think back 5 years ago and I didn't know anything about my body. And I think it was lifestyle too at the time. Like I said, I drank a lot. I was just living in a perpetual state of being hungover. So like everything was kind of numb. And, you know, with birth control too, like your mood is just so flatlined because you just have no natural hormone regulation that you just live in a constant state of like, meh, right? Like it's just very hard to differentiate what's going on, right? And I think it's like it's definitely a work in progress. And my body awareness, I guess you could say, started when I started lifting weights because I could feel the changes happening and I could make that mind-muscle connection. And, you know, I work with people who've never lifted weights and I'm like, flatten your back. And they're like, no, I'm like, that's not how you do it. Right? They just have no body awareness whatsoever. And so I think it's just like this whole holistic thing where you kind of have to pick all the pieces together over time. And it's not something that you can expect to happen in a week. It's always going to be a learning process. And I feel like the more you educate yourself around your hormones and muscle and, you know, breast implant illness, like all these kinds of things. The more you put into it, the more you'll start making those connections. Like I can wake up and know if something's wrong with my body. Like I gave me and my boyfriend food poisoning last night. And I just have like this intuition with my body where I knew what ingredient did it. Like I was just like, I know it's the flax oil. And I literally went over to my cupboard and I looked down, I'm like, oh, it expired in 2018. That makes sense. I just have like super intuition with my body, but it's been a process, right? So I think it's like one thing at a time. Mine started with muscle, and then it went into my digestive issues, like, you know, working with my digestive system, and then it was hormones, and you know what I mean? And then it was mindset. So I think we just need to take it piece by piece and not put that like time limit on ourselves.
And I would say like, if you're someone that has any issues with your body at all, whether it's like migraines or whether it's digestive things or you can't lose weight or like whatever it is, you're probably not really connected to your body.
100%.
Because if you are, then you start working with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just your body telling you like you have symptoms, like there's something going on. And I remember feeling or even hearing people say like, oh, my body betrayed me. My body betrays me. Like my body doesn't work right. Like blah, blah, blah. Like we all say these things. Yeah. And like we're someone that struggles with migraines or we're someone that struggles with digestive issues or whatever, accusing our body of that. But then now I've come around to the point of like, but we betray our bodies our whole lives. Like, because we don't even do the work to get to know them. We don't even do the work to like get in them. Like, and so I don't know, do you meditate at all?
You know what? I need to get better at it. And it's funny you mentioned Nicole. She texted me yesterday saying, have you been meditating? It's like,
that's right. A mutual friend. But I think meditating is a great place to start. It's literally just getting quiet with yourself and starting to listen, because your body will tell you what it needs. Your body will talk to you, and we all have that superpower.
Yeah.
But
I would agree. Sorry, I was going to say, I would agree that that's a good place to start, because I started the opposite. I started like the aesthetics. I started the weightlifting and the muscles and like connecting to my body based on how it looked and how it felt. Of course, I got stronger and stuff like that. But now I find the mindset stuff that should be the foundational stuff so tough, because I went the opposite way. I went from like being so concentrated on how I looked and like the shape I wanted to be in. And then it started like the digestive issues. And then it went a little deeper into the hormones. And now I'm just like, my mind, I'm like, I resist obviously what I'm not good at, because I try and meditate and I'm like, I can't do it. And I just tell myself I can't do it. And that is like, I feel like that's the last piece of the puzzle that I really need to focus on. And it's hard sucking at something.
Totally. So how many women do you work with whose weight is related to like hormones?
I mean, when they have...
I'm talking about women who maybe struggle with like, they've never been able to like find the diet and lose the weight.
Oh, if it's someone who's coming to me who has weight to lose, it's pretty much 100% of the time, because every factor affects our hormones. If you're under eating, it's affecting your hormones. If you're drinking a lot of alcohol, it's affecting your hormones. If you're super stressed out from work, it's affecting your hormones. Like if you're on medications, you know, it's depleting your nutrients, which will affect your hormones. Everything comes back to our hormones. It is like hormones are the master of our body. It is like that engineer of our body that keeps everything running. And if you're neglecting all the things that make your hormones work, then your hormones aren't going to work, and they're not going to work for you. So it's just pretty much everything you can think of that is like a bad practice of whatever it is, it's affecting your hormones. And that is why, and you need to change that habit so that your hormones change.
And this is what I wanted to touch on this, because I was like, there's so many women that beat themselves up for not being able to lose weight, and they get totally discouraged, and then they just give up because they can't find the answer, and they can't then stick with things, and they feel terrible. And I mean, I've had clients where in the past I told them before, I was like, look, this is not like a working out and eating right issue. Like there's something more going on for you. And I do think some of it's emotional side, like emotional healing. But then like now learning about the hormone stuff too, I'm like, you cannot get so discouraged and like beat yourself up so much about like your workouts and your nutrition, because there's more to you than that. Like, let yourself off the mat a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, even the emotional stuff, that's just stress. And it's affecting their thyroid and their adrenals, right? So it always just comes back to the hormones. But I think like a really good place for someone to start who's very new at this stuff and very overwhelmed is to track your symptoms. So when women join my program, that's one of the first things they get is they get their daily tracker, and it tracks your mood, your energy levels, your libido, your, a whole list of things. And you can, whether you want to write one word or you want to write a scale of 1 to 10, do that for 30 days and see how it goes up and down. And you'll be able to kind of become more relative to like how your hormones are affected throughout your cycle, but throughout the month too, and like what might be triggering that. And from there, you're able to work with, a practitioner who can look at this and say, look, I think maybe you're estrogen dominant, or maybe your progesterone is super low, or, you're not getting a period. Like, why? You know what I mean? And dig a little deeper that way. But I think the best way to get in tune with your body to start, other than meditating, is to actually think about how you feel.
Yeah.
Because everyone just goes through their life like, oh, I have a migraine. It's just because I'm prone to migraines. Like, no, you're not. You're probably deficient in magnesium. You know what I mean? And it's like, actually think about these things, and then you'll be able to take the steps to remedy them. Right? But if you just ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist, it'll always exist.
Totally. It's like becoming a friend with your body as opposed to just like hiding it, like with masks.
Friend. It's the only place you've got to live.
Yeah. Tell everybody what you have starting next week, right? Don't you have like doesn't this program all start next week?
Yeah, so I have a free masterclass on next Thursday. I don't even know what date it is, the 21st. And that will all be about, we're going to cover 3 topics. So what your PMS is telling you. So this will be a great way for you to learn about hormonal imbalances and how they present themselves, and kind of tick off the list which ones you're dealing with and what those symptoms can actually be telling you. The second is your birth control holding you back? So I will be going over birth control, what it does in our bodies, and kind of the side effects. And the last one is actually how your hormones are affecting your weight loss and your muscle building. Because again, I'm just trying to break up that narrative that like eat less and you'll be fit, because that's just BS.
I love it. Okay, what time is that on Thursday?
7 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, and where can everybody find you?
On Instagram. My Instagram is lifeasjenn, Jenn, and then my website is jenncino.com. Pretty easy.
Okay, we'll link up probably your masterclass if we can in the show notes. So
that'd be awesome.
Just join from there. So thank you for being on today and sharing your wisdom and helping so many women feel more heard and seen and understood. Probably, I think so many women are going to hear this and be like, what? Like, why have I never heard this before? So I'm excited, and everybody go sign up for her masterclass because it's free and you get to learn about all of this. And why not? Like, why not be trying to learn more about our bodies and how we can help them? So I'm so grateful you guys were all here today listening. If you love this episode, don't forget, take a screenshot, share it out in your stories, tag us. We would love to hear like your biggest takeaway, your hashtag like mind blown moment, because I know I had tons of them. And everybody just go have a beautiful day. Thank you, Jenn, so much for being on.
Thanks, Georgia.